Bonjour, ça va? Oui, très bien, merci. No, don't worry, we do first impression in English, people. Okay, so are we all ready? So Kaidi, what I'm thinking is we take the first four stories, then we're gonna break, and then we take the last four stories. So let's remember.
Yes, first four. Right.
It's actually myself that should remember.
Love music. Love life.
Hey, gosh!
I was gonna say,
I didn't.
but I was gonna say.
Oh, you were going
Ready?
to say. You were going to say. Thank you. You're one of those people that waits till somebody crashes their car and you're like, oh man, and I saw
But
that
actually, was gonna
coming.
say, I don't know. I looked away for a minute and then I forgot.
We're going live. Studio.
Boom, boom.
Well, Lagos, Nigeria, and world, here we are. It is gone past at 7:30 time spot, which means it is freshly pressed in the Smooth FM studios. Joining Kaide and myself, Shopper Martins, we have got Lade and Justin for Tuesday. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Shopper. Good
Morning.
Friday.
My
Morning.
goodness.
Good morning, Justin. Happy birthday, in
Yes,
arrest.
happy birthday,
Yes.
Justin.
Not that you invited me to come and eat.
45 degrees Fahrenheit.
I beg, let's hear.
Hot like that, baby.
Did you bring cake for us?
Bring
It's bad for your health.
Listen,
Sugar.
It says
Kaide,
cake is bad for it.
Lade, I have to say that the fact that Justin showed up is
Yeah, it's impressive.
a
Slow
gift
clap.
to
Give me
us.
my
It's
flowers.
a Monday.
Slow clap.
You still have to
Celebrate
make
me.
the money.
Oh, you
If
actually-
we spend
Now
the money,
we
he
are
has to
day
remember that he has to make
alive.
the money that he's spending.
Hey,
He
it's
wants
all
to
right,
spend
people.
personally.
Don't worry. I'll give him applause.
There we go.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Justin.
Yes.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Congratulations.
Thank
Another
you.
year added to a wonderful life.
Thank
All right,
you.
and of course, apart from the analysts and the presenters, we have got you. Oh, we've also got somebody who is in the studio. If you are up on youtube.com/smooth981 FM Lagos. Hey, hello, Andy, go ahead. Switch it over so that people can see. If you are up on YouTube on the live stream, you will be able to see him in just a second as we crank the screen around. And you can also leave your comments up on that live stream. So make sure you do so that we can get your take on the topics. And you can also send messages into WhatsApp.
Yes, WhatsApp is 0809 444 0981. Don't forget, use the hashtag freshlypress981 for Twitter, and also we're streaming live. It's youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos. There we go.
Patty, you
There
got
we
it.
go.
All right, from the Guardian newspaper, let's start things off. Federal government sets aside PIA to pay 4.6 trillion naira on fuel subsidy. So this was yesterday when we heard the news that the federal government soft-pedaled on its initial plan to remove subsidy on petrol, setting aside its much trumpeted Petroleum Industry Act to continue paying about 4.6 trillion naira, provided, of course, that crude oil prices hover around the $85 per barrel mark. Wadi, I'm coming to you for this one. I suppose my question will be, we saw such a strong move coming in from the federal government saying that, okay, we've only allocated enough of the budget for the first 6 months set aside towards fuel subsidy. Considering the fact of the year 2022 pre-election year, some would have thought that maybe there had been a lot of thought behind this move, but then we now see this backtracking. I mean, what do you make of it?
First, the president had always said that he was not in support of the removal of subsidies. So I was wondering where all that came from. However, a few things that we need to note here is an additional 2 trillion in expenditure has been added to the budget, which needs to be financed. Where are they getting the money from?
I feel like you should just have a moment of silence just for people for that to sink in.
They said they would roll out refining capacities of existing refineries. I think it was last year. How much was the loan that they took to fix the refineries? 1.5 billion, and they still are not producing. So I really don't know what they're talking about. The minister also says that they look at converting some of the cars. They'll convert 1 million public transport vehicles and install 1,000 refueling centers to change them from petrol to gas. Another scheme that they are going to kick off, bring out some money, and will never see the light of day. So it's just amazing that we went back and forth, and the excuse is, oh, because of the plight of Nigerians. You didn't know the plight of Nigerians over the last how many years, and we're going back and forth. I'm one that believes that subsidy should go. However, let's stop all these back and forth games and wasting our time, telling us, oh, we take off subsidy. No, we won't take it off. NLC is going to strike. NLC
So,
is not going to strike.
hold on, Justin, what would you say about what kind of ramifications does the back and forth, does the seesawing have on investors' opinion of Nigeria, on Nigerians' opinion of Nigeria, on,
Okay.
public sentiment?
As someone with one foot in the downstream space,
Mhm.
I can tell you that this is a sucker punch for investor confidence, right? So imagine that because of the coming deregulations on the PIA, the recently passed Petroleum Industry Act, that you had set plans in motion to expand a network of retail dispensing centers for
Right.
petroleum, right?
Okay.
Imagine that you had set that in motion, and then this somersault comes. What happens, right? Where is the confidence to go ahead and invest in the sector where you're actually bringing products to the last mile for consumers to happen? Riding on the back of that, you now turn around and say, okay, so we want to transition into gas-powered motoring in the country. That also depends on the private sector. The government is not going to build. So what they're envisioning, that's a totally different conversation, whether it's viable or not. What the government envisions is the same way you have petrol stations all over the place in every nook and cranny. You're going to have gas dispensing stations. That depends on the private sector.
Yes.
Now, if you've burnt me once in this space, right, that is well established, which is retailing PMS and
Yes.
ADO, how do you expect me to go raise money to come invest in building out a network for dispensing gas? How is that going to work? Every time we do this somersault, what we're saying to the to capital is not stupid. Money flows to where value is. If I can lose the money tomorrow, I will not raise that equity and put it there. I will go for the most efficient space where I can allocate capital to. So this is just death by 1,000 cuts, and we keep doing this over and over and over again. It's almost predictable, like the sun is going to rise tomorrow. They will change it tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
Thank you very much.
Now,
Justin.
well, actually, you know what? Thank you for that, Justin, because we don't have that much time, but we will be looking at this more in depth through your messages. Send them in on WhatsApp 0809 440 981. Now, we've got more news for you.
Yes, so let's move on to our next story. This one from This Day newspaper. And well, it comes to you, Justin. To secure Buhari during state visit, Kano LGs contributed 110 million naira. So let me put a background to this. So a certain document currently in circulation, has revealed that the Kaduna state government literally, hounded 11 of the 23 local governments in the state to contribute 10 million naira each to provide additional security for the Commander-in-Chief of Armed Forces, which is of course the president, during his recent visit to the state. So what do you make of this? 23 local governments, 10 million naira.
Holy barao.
I don't get it.
This is the president we're talking about.
Yes.
He has a presidential guard. When did host geographies start becoming responsible for the security of the president if he's visiting that space?
So
remember,
they're saying they want helicopter surveillance,
paid for by the local government or by the state, right? There's the Nigerian Air Force, which provides air support for whenever the president is moving. So what was the money used for? You go look into the details of the story. It says logistics, advertisement, or publicity, or something like that. For Pete's sake, we keep doing these things. And then you turn around and tell Nigerians that we're broke. But we see you. We see what you're doing with money. We see you frittering away the Commonwealth under every and any excuse under the sun. You wanted to secure the president. I don't know how many times have they taxed the local governments to raise money to say, look, we have banditry going on in our areas. Let's do that. No, but the president is coming on a few hours visit, and you tell me that all the local governments should bring 10 million. What are you doing with 10 million? Are you employing new policemen, or are you employing vigilantes to so that they shop at the vex?
I see that.
It was
I
your
see
big
that.
days. They calm
But yes,
down.
take
They
a
calm
breath.
down. They calm down.
Okay.
Let
From
me
a
drink
layman's
water and drop
perspective,
cup.
so if this could work for the president, let me just look at it from the sake of argument. There's a lot that's been going on in Kaduna, right? So would you say that this money still can be raised to secure the people, because they've been having a lot of cases of banditry amongst other things in that regard.
It depends on what you want to spend money on and how you want to spend money. Money can be raised for anything. They wanted to raise money for the presidential visit and they raised it. Same and simple.
The local
Not apply. They sent them a directive.
All right. Let's move on to our next story. But don't forget, if you want to be a part of our talk, send us messages on WhatsApp. It's 0809-444-0981. Shegun comes in. He says, fact is will be politically suicidal to remove subsidy now. During the next presidential campaign, both main parties must be pressed on their intentions of removing the petroleum subsidy.
And we have this message in from Olatubosu, who says, as it is customary for the federal government to borrow from China, let them borrow to fix the refineries. Then we can deliberate on subsidy removal afterwards.
They borrowed 1.5 billion last year. Dollars. Let's get these things correct. So nobody should say they should borrow some more. The 1.5 billion that was borrowed to fix the refineries. What have they done with it?
Is borrow our new four-letter word? That's the question I've been putting out. From the Punch newspaper, federal government probes online banks over breach of customers' data privacy. Now, we heard from the Director General of the National Information Technology Development Agency, Kashifu Inua, who made this disclosure in Abuja on Monday. He said the agency was working with the police force and other relevant agencies to investigate several lending platforms, popularly called loan shark platforms. He went on to talk about how, back in November, that they had partnered with his agency had partnered with the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission to address the increasing rates of data privacy abuse by money lending organizations, particularly fintech firms. Okay, Wadi, let me come to you for this one. Oh, sorry, Justin, let me come to you for this one.
Oh, yeah.
Oh boy, take a breath. Brace yourselves, people.
So, let's call a spade, not a digging instrument. This conversation has been going on for quite a while. And as usual, we make it look like it's rocket science to solve what is a very fundamentally resolvable issue. Each of these platforms, the majority of these platforms are plugged into the Nigerian payment system run by NIBS, right? For you to have an app
NIBS is what?
Nigerian Interbank Settlement System,
okay,
right? Which basically allows you, that's your BVN, right? Your BVN sits with NIBS. That's why you can see another person's account in another bank to move money to it. That's basically, without NIBS, there's no BVN, right? So the fact that you use your BVN to sign up for these apps, right, and then it gives you you give the app access to your contacts, simply means for you to shut this down, yank them off NIBS. Why are we speaking English? Where this, for them to be in NIBS, it means they went through some licensing program, right? There's some regulatory oversight. Where is the regulator? Who is regulated? Where are the sanctions applicable under the licensing regime that you gave these people? The conversation has been going. They're in breach of several things: privacy, the Data Protection Act, and all of that. Why are we talking, wringing our hands like, oh my God, the sky is falling? No, the sky is not falling. If these people are falling short, yank them off the system until they come into compliance. This is not something that we should be discussing over and over and over. It's been on the news for 3-4 weeks. And the resolution is that simple.
Implement the policy. Simple.
Execute.
Or just give
as easy as 1, 2, 3.
It is actually.
Okay.
It is.
Yank them out.
If people are not collecting brown envelopes to look the other way, it is.
If you're not losing money, if you don't start losing money, then you won't stop some of these things.
A few messages here. Time for Majestic. Public money is sweet to use. 110 million naira for one man, yet we don't have money. And Ola from Festac says, if federal government borrows money to fix NNPC and could not,
the meaning is questionable.
Yeah,
I suppose is what he's trying to say. Yeah.
All right, let's move on to our next story. Let's talk about HMOs. This one comes to you, Wadi. HMO faults 400% proposed tariff hike in health insurance scheme. So the managing director of the Ultimate Health HMO, that's Liko Ewanle, said on Monday, described the ill-timed proposed tariff increase of the private health sector as he talks about how bad it is. What are your thoughts about this?
My thoughts are very simple. I really don't know. So I had to look through this association of general and private medical practitioners. Are they the ones who set the rules for the HMOs? I thought there was a national health insurance scheme run, managed, and has government in place along with private sector. So when you wake up one morning and the practitioners association are the ones telling you that there's a 400% hike, then I start to wonder who sets the rules and regulations of the system. And that's why they're calling out to the head of the NHIS to look into it.
So here's how it works. The HMOs, right? They are clients to the healthcare providers, which are the hospitals and the clinics.
Yes.
Now, the HMO is supposed to pay the hospitals and the clinics after you get treatment at the hospital.
Yeah.
So the hospitals and the care providers are the ones saying, listen,
want
we
to
are
increase-
hiking our rates. Yes. So the HMO is in the middle. So the HMOs are crying out and saying, listen,
When
if
you
this
hike your
happens,
rate, how much are they making from it?
how much is who making?
Either side.
So the point is that the care providers are saying our costs have gone up, right?
Okay.
And remember, they're losing staff.
That's true.
There's a mass exodus of healthcare practitioners out of the country. So I'm guessing that part of this is for us to keep people, we probably have to up their pay packages because it's mainly an economic issue. Doctors are saying we're not being paid, or not when we are paid, we're not paid well at all. So probably the private sector healthcare providers are saying, listen, we need to up our game financially. And what that means is that the users have to pay more. Now the HMO now has to manage that mess. That's where we are.
All right, we need to go on a quick break, though.
We have got messages, and don't forget we are streaming live up on youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos. We see your messages up on that platform. We'll get to them in just a bit. Stick with us right here on Smooth Breakfast. Andy, something is going on with the volume. I'm so sorry, guys.
No, it's not.
No,
Oh,
but
okay.
she wasn't
Okay.
going to plug it in. She was supposed to.
Yeah.
What's going on?
See, somebody has already gone up on Twitter to complain about how there's always an issue with the YouTube feed. So we need to be very focused on that, very conscious of what's going out, right? Especially the volume. So that's buzzing noise. We solved it with that. But in order for us to make sure that there is volume, let's keep you guys. Can you guys hear us now? If you can, send a message and tell us you can, please.
Yeah, no.
People are getting back to their
Yeah.
feet.
I'm telling you.
Like yesterday.
Plus, I love Twitter, but my goodness, the drive-bys that go on.
You guys need to get
Okay.
a roadcaster.
We're back.
What?
Studio.
Better.
Roadcaster.
Okay, here we are back for more stories inside of Freshly Pressed. We are analyzing news on the national front with our analyst, Justin and Wade. So the next story that we've got up for you talks about electricity supply. And a country that's, you might not have thought of from the Vanguard newspaper, federal government in Egypt in bilateral talks on electricity supply. What's your take on this?
Where are we with the Siemens contract? Because it's end-to-end from generation into transmission right now. They're looking at 25,000 megawatts. Nigeria has capacity currently to generate 12,000, 50% of that.
Okay.
But it just can't go through the transmission lines
But why can't you go?
because you don't have the facility. Part of the Siemens contract and part of the Siemens agreement is do a lot of investment in the transmission space so that we can get more energy into it, as well while on the downside the distribution companies are improving on their network systems. I know they started that because I know over the last 3 to 4 months they've been doing a lot of upgrades on the transmission end, and some of the distribution companies have been talking about it. This contract was signed in 2019. The implementation was meant to start in 2020, so that's fine. COVID and all. However, this is 2022, and we really don't know what is happening with that. How far have they gone? Now you're talking to the Egyptians to do what? To come back and do what? Or is it to carry out the Siemens contract or to come and help you in
the Minister
transmission?
of Power, Abubakar Aliu, said that their anticipated area of cooperation
Is in transmission and
is
distribution.
Exactly.
The major part of the Siemens contract.
Oh wait, hold
has
on. Let's
to
not forget renewable energy.
That's fine.
Okay.
The
Sorry to
major,
interrupt.
the major part of the cement contract
Mhm.
is to deal with transmission while assisting distribution to improve on their network systems. I've not dealt with transmission.
Right. So,
See, we have the capacity. We have 12,500 megawatts capacity that is available. Hydro, gas, but we don't generate more than 5,000 megawatts in a day. And if you push, you can't push more than 5,000 megawatts through your transmission lines. It's been there forever. So if they've not done that, then I don't know what we're talking about. So if you bring in, even if you bring in the renewable energy, which grid are you going to pass it through? These are huge questions that they're not answering. And each time you are sitting down with one person and saying you're signing a bilateral agreement. Wow.
all right, we've got messages.
Yeah, this one says the law companies have become a menace. It's ridiculous how they harass contacts of loan defaulters. I reached out to one of them via WhatsApp not to contact me for such again, and they literally responded with, "You can find your way out after ranting."
My goodness.
Wow.
Okay then. We've got more from you still up on 0809 440 981. That is the WhatsApp line. Cisco Delgado says not only banks, even some fintech companies are the worst. I got a message yesterday asking me to tell my friend whom uh, whom I was his guarantor to pay back his loan or I would be held responsible. I didn't even know when the business was transacted. And Joseph from Silver Estate says the government they're not technocrats. They always create hiccups in all policy. The so-called subsidies are now part of all government regime from time to time. Okay, thank you so much for your message. Whilst Tayo from Aja says God will intervene in this electricity issue. He goes on to say, let me go and fire up my generator while I hear what's going on with this Egyptian technology. Okay, Tayo, yeah, you're funny.
We see. Okay, real quick, let's move on to our next story. This one here comes to you, Justin. Federal government accuses Nigerians of sabotaging social investment programs. And they raised the alarm that social investment programs are being sabotaged by Nigerians. And part of what they're saying is that the end program, they pay people 30,000 monthly, but they don't go to school, amongst other things. What do you think of this?
So the national coordinator, Dr. Umar Buba Binder, says you've been a bad boy, Nigerians. And he says the reason for saying that is that the project meant to benefit Nigerians, I'm reading now, is not achieving the desired result because many people given the responsibility to drive it are sabotaging the efforts of the government. My dear sir, who gave these people the responsibility? I'm a Nigerian and I wasn't given any responsibility. So you must have gone through a process of selection for the vendors under this program.
Inquiring minds would like to know.
So I'm wondering how this is on us now, but it's okay. So, but my question is, how are they onboarded? For every project you want to run, there's a basic framework. You design it, and then you proceed to plan, you proceed to execution, then you monitor, then you report feedback. It goes in a loop back to the beginning. Through that process, you update parameters. Dear sir, that's what you should do. You don't start a program without putting in place measures for monitoring and evaluation, and then your program fails and you come back at the end of the day, spend more money holding workshops that you want to now update your monitoring and evaluation, blah blah blah, whatever it is. No, we didn't do this to you, sir. You did it to yourself. Go plan your programs properly and execute properly, because if you don't plan properly, you failed from the beginning, and it's not on Nigerians, it's on you, dear sir. You can't take the heat, leave the kitchen.
All right, Justin is angry this morning, but it's okay. Send your messages on WhatsApp as well, and also Twitter. Please use the hashtag FreshlyPressed981.
I'm not sure I can take the heat, Justin, from your fiery analysis this morning. Okay, we've got more for you from the Punch newspaper. NDLEA sets up task force to dismantle cartel behind Nkurumiri.
Did you get it?
She tried.
Really tried.
7 over 10.
Okay, so that's the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency. It set up a special task force, and that's supposed to work across the country to track and dismantle drug cartels behind the production and distribution of methamphetamine. Oh my goodness. All right, so let me hear your thoughts on this, Wadi.
I think it's a good idea, but the main part of the story that I'm really, really proud about is this. When the chairman of the NDLA says, and he makes reference to the Southeast, where they believe that a lot of people are engaged in drug trafficking and all, and they've decided to come back home and wash their place. That's what I'm happy about, and he's telling us the same thing. So it's, for me, drug trafficking, what's it called, drug abuse, there is an issue with the community. How do you see it? How are you treating, or how are you trying to manage the situations within those places? Because these people are members of the community. So how do you deal with them? How do you even try and help them out? Well, we know the level of drug abuse in Nigeria has really increased over the last few years, over the last 10 years, I guess. And to a large extent, there are so many places where drugs are sold in public. So if you're setting up the task force, I hope you set out the plans, like Justin just said. What are the things that you need to do? What are you doing? How are you gathering information?
And how are you engaging the community with that, right?
To work with them to ensure that, one, you're not just arresting drug barons, but helping those who are abusing drugs.
Because
address the predisposing factors as well.
Because one thing that stands out to me from that part of the article that you referenced, Lade, is the fact that yes, he talks about what great strides the people of the community are making, but then we also know that within this country, within the continent, we do have a preponderance to go over to the jungle justice method of punishment whenever something happens, whenever we see perceived,
which was also addressed,
suspected
yes,
criminals.
It's suspected, so that's why they're setting up the task force, so you can easily work with them. And what you said earlier about working with the community comes into play. The task force itself, I hope they're not just going to sit down in their offices and not have representatives that they can talk to within the community, and how they can access them as quickly as possible.
All right, Wadi, thank you so much for that. Real quick, let's move on to our final story. This one's a familiar one, and it comes to you, Justin. Again, court orders arrest of ex-petroleum minister Tiziani over corruption charges. This from Premium Times. So, I mean, I don't need to give a background to this. Justin, what do you think?
So, for me, this is lack of diligent prosecution, as the lawyers would call it. Because what the EFCC is saying essentially is issue us another arrest warrant before we can proceed with extradition processes. Now, prior to that, in 2018, an arrest warrant was issued. On top of that arrest warrant that was issued, there was another judge who issued a court summons in 2020, Justice Ijoma Ojukwu, I believe, of the Federal High Court, who was handling the matter then. Now she's no longer the one handling the matter. There's a fresh judge who has asked EFCC for an update, and EFCC has said, give us another arrest warrant. The last judge refused to give us an arrest warrant, and it wasn't sufficient.
It was good that you mentioned the last judge, because the last judge was the third judge, and she definitely told them twice that she wasn't giving them a warrant.
Because there was an existing warrant, which I don't know has lapsed. But here's a kicker for me.
Okay.
The EFCC itself is saying the Office of the Attorney General needs this in order to commence extradition processes. I'm saying this is the same administration. You have one arrest warrant, you have a summons. Now you're saying the reason why you haven't made progress in this since 2018 is because the office of the AGF. Well, there are these things called, I'm not a lawyer, there are these things called waivers though. If you want to diligently prosecute something that in this administration has been touted as one of the high profile, corruption cases, we caught her, she had a diamond bra, she had plenty jewelry and crazy stuff like that. It sounds like somebody really doesn't want to move this envelope forward, because what are you people doing? It's the same administration. Sit down in the room, talk to yourselves if you really want to push this forward and you have a solid case. Because here's what's going to happen. It's been adjourned to March this year, right? March 2022, all the way from, right? So here's what's going to happen. Some learned judge in March is going to say, you know what, guys, for lack of diligent prosecution by the government, I'm going to dismiss the case. That's where we're going with this. And yeah, but up EFCC.
8 years for the number one corruption case in Nigeria.
We have run out of time. I've just seen the time. So very quickly, let me take this message from Yinka, who says regarding the story from The Guardian. Federal government accusing Nigerians of sabotaging social investment programs. It says Nigerians are sabotaging social investment programs? Really? When we asked them to put out the names of those that collected monies, they said no. Even their supporters gave silly excuses to them as to why identities needed to be protected. So they sabotaged themselves. How hard is getting a microfinance bank to disperse the monies and we can easily verify them? But no, we saw ministry folks carrying quads of cash up and down, says Yinka. And on that note, we end the show, but we don't end the conversation. Use that hashtag freshly pressed 981 up on Twitter, and of course, tag our analysts and ourselves. We are at Smooth981 FM. Our analysts, you can find them at Justin EJ, right? And at
Wadia Himi on the score.
There we go. Don't forget, guys, in a few more minutes at 8:10 will be Lagos Talks 981, where you get to talk to us. So please stay with us.
Parametrics. Creating
Just thinking, we came to bonus all the alcohol.